are listening to Nakedly Examined Music, a podcast about songs and songwriters. My name is Mark Linsenmeyer. My guest for episode 139 is Don Rauf of the New York band Life in a Blender. They've just released their 10th studio album, but have been going since the late 80s. You are right now listening to Mounds of Flesh from their first album, 1988's Welcome to the Jelly Days. We're going to be discussing The Ocean is a Black and Rolling Tongue from their new one, Satsuma. Then looking back to Falmouth from We Already Have Birds That Sing, 2014. And then way back to Chicken Dance from Two Legs Bad, 1997. We'll end by listening to Soul Deliverer, another one from Satsuma. For more information, please see lifeinablender.net. For more about this podcast, check out nakedlyexaminedmusic.com. Make sure you're subscribed directly to our feed. And if you want to support this podcast and get your episodes ad-free, you can do so at patreon.com/nakedlyexaminedmusic. That will also give you my notes to the show that break down the structure of the songs that we're talking about. So I will have played a little bit of Mounds of Flesh from Welcome to the Jelly Days, 1988.
I'm glad you're playing that. That song, just recently, some fans from Europe, it seemed, found it online on some John Peel compilation that I was unaware of. And then I somehow stumbled on this thread where these musical squirrely types were tuning in and finding this and saying, who wrote this song? Where's this song coming from? So that was it's a thrill to be appreciated. And they found this song and appreciated it, and they couldn't find it for a while. And then they found out it was Life in a Blender. And if you go on YouTube, there's somebody who posted the song, and then they have identified that it's our band, and they were all excited. So that was great. A resurgence for that song that never had a surgence.
At that stage, I mean, that's sort of during the heyday of They Might Be Giants. I know you have a couple people in your band that have played with them, both New York bands. We're going to get to the new stuff, 2020's The Ocean is a Black and Rolling Tongue from Satsuma, the new album. Certainly, even in the olden days, they were not all quote-unquote novelty songs. I don't know how you feel about that appellation in the first place. Just having a sense of humor in writing something seems like it should not, make it go on Dr. Demento. But yeah, can you say something about this journey? You're 10 albums later. This song in particular is a pretty dark one. It's the closing one of the album.
We did start out, I think, more humorous and had songs that you could say were more novelty songs about dogs and beer and humorous things like that. But I still think the music itself was always not just a joke. So, we were writing songs that were musically sound all along. Although I think over the years we've developed, maybe we started more just as a rock band, and then musically we've added on and became more orchestrated and have the strings and have the horns, etc. So how did we wind up with this dark song? This is probably the least funny song. There's often a sense of humor going on through the songs, as you see, but this song has no sense of humor. The 5 of the songs on the album are based on books, because I've been writing songs for this project called the Bushwick Book Club, which is started by Susan Wong in Brooklyn. And it's a great project where singer-songwriters from all around the country have been coming together and writing songs about a particular work. So this song was written about Jonathan Ames's You Were Never Really Here, which later became a movie with Joaquin Phoenix, and it's directed by Lynn Ramsey, and I guess it's equally dark and frightening and brutal. He always writes humorous stuff, so this was a real departure for him. In a way, this made a departure for us because we wrote about this particular work, which has, absolutely no sense of humor, just like Jonathan Ames's novella. This is a dip into our darkest area.
Drowning is black and sudden
Let's talk sonically. Before we get into this, can you say something about the type of collaboration? I was about to ask you about this percussion thing that you start off with. Are you even involved in that? Is this the kind of question I should be asking you? I see you're given the songwriting credit.
Oh, I wish I prepared for that. Right. Yeah, I don't even know. I see, that's a great question. Why wasn't I curious enough to ask our producer, guitarist, where he got that sound? I don't even know if the drummer did that or what, but that is a good sound. And I don't know where it comes from.
Well, clearly you had an idea. It's a very strong move to make, as we're going to hear in two of the songs today, to make the introduction have a completely different vocal tone. We're going to not make it, I guess, when you come back and are singing this melody that's at the beginning later in the song, you're doing more of your Tom Waits voice. But here, it's you can't even really tell what this is. Can you say something about that choice to subsume the vocal at this point? What are you doing mood-wise to allow it to open up later?
Well, what comes to mind is, Al's playing with so many different effects where the vocals are coming forward, moving back, sounds are rushing in, rushing back. I do think he's getting a bit of a ocean feel in a strange way. There's many more effects here that I think are very interesting, and they add to this dark texture of the whole song. What he did with it, he took it from just a rudimentary, basic song and just took it to a whole nother planet with the production on this one.
Yeah, it's almost like a Sonic Youth thing at the beginning here with the two guitars with the reverb soaked in. So what is the order of operations in terms of, I assume you come with the lyric and chords intact, and then who are you working with first? How are you layering this stuff?
I'm coming into the band all together with just the guitar and the song, really basic. How it winds up here on the recording. This one is just so far removed from how we would do it live too. Because he's just bringing in so many great different effects. And then layered on top of that, bringing another element in is all the horns. And Mark Lerner, the bass player, arranged all the horns. And then we had, just these great horn players come in. And I really just love the horns on this part. I love how they come in and go away and come in again. Just great horn players. I'd love to say their names too. Jackie Coleman and Drew Krasner and Kevin Mohringer.
So I've gotten the comment before, I really like to orchestrate my songs, but they're very lyric oriented. And somebody telling me it's kind of better when it's just you and your guitar, because then you can actually pay attention to the lyrics. What is your take on that? Clearly you're not threatened by having a very swingy horn riff covering up your chorus, and they're nicely balanced. It's not like you're lost in there, but it certainly divides the focus somewhat.
It just supports the lyrics totally here. I don't think it ever gets lost for me when we bring in the horns and the strings. But I can see your point. You have somebody maybe like Loudon Wainwright or someone who you think just has straight ahead, humorous, poignant songs that are more just him and the guitar. And that's how you often see him play. And you really focus on the lyrics. I can see how that just puts the focus on the lyrics and the melody. I think there's room to support it all, as this album demonstrates.
Yes. Well, and certainly you don't get the dynamic changes that you get here. This codeine part, is it the bridge? Is it the post-chorus? Do you have an idea of what? We've now had this swinging heavy chorus, and now we're going to go into this spacey part.
Yeah, the softer, quieter part, the codeine part. It's a bridge of sorts, but the song doesn't feel like it's following a normal structure, I guess, of just chorus, bridge, etc.
The fact that the bridge, it happens more than once, makes it not a bridge. I think that's the rule.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's not a bridge. You're going back over the bridge again? Okay. All right.
One extra part to keep things interesting, but yeah, we come back to it.
What is the image? Is there a particular scene in the book that you're trying to channel here? Because it sounds like somebody's being followed by guilt, something like that. But then, I'm afraid of drowning. The ocean's going to cover me up. So get free of the ocean. But when you're free of the ocean, sometimes the ocean's all you hear. And now I want to float away on the ocean. I'm not exactly sure how the metaphors are working here.
Analysis to decipher here.
It's okay to say no, just so you know.
Okay to say no. Well, let me go back to the codeine. In the book, there is a character taking codeine there's so much misery and darkness in the book, and then people trying to escape all that darkness. Where are you escaping? You're escaping with the ocean. Maybe you're swimming out into the dark ocean. That's one thing. With the codeine, just trying to use that as a drug to wipe out all the bleakness. The white noise, too. There's some character putting on a white noise machine trying to erase everything. So the novella is about a hitman with a hammer killing off these people. He's a just hitman. He's trying to save some young woman or girl even who's involved in some sort of sex ring, who's, been trapped, and he's trying to get her out. So he's killing off people who deserve to be killed. But everything's dark and everything's horribly bleak in this book. There's not 1 ounce of humor. And so all these images, I think the ocean, trying to escape into the ocean, trying to escape into drugs, codeine, trying to escape with noise, white noise machine.
The girl in this is the Lisa. I was kind of confused there. You're all in first person, and then it's just the second time the bridge comes in, whatever this is, we're calling this. By the time the drugs kick in, she'll have no remembrance. You're introducing a new character here. Like this whole image of her counting versus you're not counting on violence. Is that imagery from the book, or is this something you came up with?
Lisa's in the book. Lisa's the character he's the protagonist is trying to save, and she's drugged up and sort of trapped. Being on the drugs, she's kept docile in the environment that she's in, and so she's another character from the book. And I'm bringing in those elements and weaving them. Did I know exactly what I'm trying to get at? Maybe not totally. Just hoping the song would lead the way as I got into it. She's counting. Why was she counting? Well, that's a good question. She was just counting, getting lost, only as a way to just sort of block out everything out. Another way of blocking things out. How do you just not think of all the horribleness? I think there is something in the book where she was just counting, and just that process was helping keep all the darkness away.
Before we go on, it's commercial time. Oh my. Today I want to tell you about Masterclass, of course, where you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, at your own pace. You can learn about creativity from Issa Rae, skateboarding from Tony Hawk, poker strategy from Phil Ivey, and of course I've told you about the dozen-plus music courses from folks like Alicia Keys, St. Vincent, Carlos Santana, Timbaland, Tom Morello, Herbie Hancock, Hans Zimmer, and Reba McEntire. There are over 100 courses. That thing you've always wanted to do is closer than you think. As I've spent more time with Masterclass, I have been delving out of my immediate comfort zone into things that would be good skills for any musician to have. And this time I looked at Chris Voss's The Art of Negotiation. He's a former FBI lead hostage negotiator, teaching you communication skills and strategies to help you get more of what you want every day, like gigs, like better record deals. If you are a socially awkward, an artiste, I am too fancy to be wheedling for things. Well, these are practical skills like tactical empathy, mirroring the person that you are negotiating with. Not just saying the right thing, but using the right tone and inflection, reading people's body language. This is just fascinating stuff and, yes, useful. And like all Masterclass courses, it's impeccably shot, wonderfully edited, comes with class notes. I highly recommend you check it out. Get unlimited access to every Masterclass, and as a Nakedly Examined Music listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/examined. That's masterclass.com/examined for 15% off Masterclass. Now, we all know how a VPN protects your privacy and security online, right? But I didn't know till recently, and it's taken my TV watching game to the next level. You can use a VPN to unlock movies and shows that are only available in other countries. ExpressVPN hides your IP address and lets you control where you want sites to think you're located. You can choose from almost 100 different countries and get that internationally licensed content through Netflix, through Hulu, through BBC iPlayer, YouTube, etc. So for instance, it's on my computer. It was super fast to install. I just open the interface with a couple clicks. I am now logged in from the UK. I refresh my Netflix page, and hey, there's stuff like American Idol and America's Got Talent that are not on the American page. There's an Oasis documentary. I was watching Star Trek Discovery. And you can install this on all your devices, on Apple TV, on Android TVs, Fire TV, Chromebook, iPhone, on the router itself. Now, there are many VPN options, but ExpressVPN is ridiculously fast. There's never any buffering or lag, and you can stream in HD no problem. If you visit my special link right now, expressvpn.com/NEM, you can get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. Support the show, watch what you want, protect yourself at expressvpn.com/NEM. Even in the new year, it's hard to start a new routine, but if you're one of the 34% of Americans who made a resolution to be less stressed, Headspace is here to help. Headspace is your daily dose of mindfulness in the form of guided meditations in an easy-to-use app. It is one of the only meditation apps advancing the field of mindfulness and meditation through clinically validated research, backed by 25 published studies on its benefits, and it's got 600,000 five-star reviews, over 60 million downloads. Maybe you need help falling asleep, focusing in the morning. This is true. Yesterday, I was really feeling stressed and demotivated, had some podcast prep stuff I just needed to get to and just didn't want to, couldn't focus. And I pulled up one of the 3-minute SOS meditations. I knew this was going to help just calm my brain down and let me get to it, and it totally worked. I've been doing this off and on for over a month now. It really just changed my attitude toward my brain. I think maybe I saw meditation as this hubristic attempt to reprogram yourself, but the way that Andy Puddicombe guides you here is much more relaxed, reflective, accords with my style. Headspace makes it easy for you to build a life-changing meditation practice with mindfulness that works for you on your schedule, anytime, anywhere. You deserve to feel happier, and Headspace is meditation made simple. Go to headspace.com/NEM. That's headspace.com/NEM for a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. This is the best deal offered right now. Head to headspace.com/NEM today. All right, let's get back to it.
Well, let's get the second song on the table. We're going back to 2014, Falmouth from We Already Have Birds That Sing. Can you say a little where you're at with this one?
Yeah, so it's actually, Falmouth is a town in Cape Cod as you come at the base of Cape Cod, as you're heading into the mainland. And I mean, I was thinking of two friends who maybe haven't seen each other, but know each other really well, and they're getting back together, and one has a drinking problem, and the other's saying, hey, I'm going to come down, and I'm going to see you, and I'm going to help you with your problems that you're trying to overcome. And in fact, I'll come and I'll bring some of your old stuff that might cheer you up. I'll bring your weathered ball and your record crates with your Aerosmith and your Killer Queen. I think I brought those up specifically because I was thinking of me growing up, and I was always poaching records from my sister's album collection, and she had the ones that stick out, are Aerosmith and Killer Queen, are prominent in my head. So I was thinking of those. And then anyway, this character drives to his friend's place. He's there trying to lift his spirits. In my mind, they kind of go off the rails themselves. They're eating chicken. They're going to the roller derby. They're having a good time, and maybe having a bit too much of a good time. Maybe he's, I don't know how much he is helping his friend here. Maybe they're drinking again. So I leave it all ambiguous about what's going on.
Slipping back to Falmouth off the Cape. Haven't had a drop but feeling great. And I heard the news that your chips are down and you're getting yourself straight. Can you bust a move like I bust a move? You know I'm feeling great. Cause when you're in the dance, you gotta dance. And when you stop for a breath, you hope the room won't be spinning. A movable log can tip your way, and if you give it a chance, you know the things can just be beginning. Like flowers, like flowers, like flowers, like flowers. If you stick around, we can work things out, get some chicken and talk things over. We'll get some tickets to the roller derby, calling out her name as she smashes in the wall. It doesn't matter when they come into town. It doesn't matter when they go stoner. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, baby. It doesn't matter. Falmouth off the Cape. When I got your call, I filled the tank. And I packed the trunk with your weathered ball and your record crates. With your Killer Queen and your Aerosmith, you always had good taste. You always said that snakes shed their skin, but there's still snakes underneath. Will you answer when I'm buzzing? Immovable luck can tip your way. Oh, you can't stop me from coming with flowers, like flowers, like flowers. If you stick around, we can work things out, get some chicken and talk things over. We'll get some tickets to the roller derby, calling out her name. We'll be calling out her name. We'll be calling out her name. We'll be calling out her name. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
So I was sold on this one with the opening very jazzy horn chords there at the beginning. The horns are not even officially part of the band, right? They're an optional thing that must be added as sort of the last element.
Right. We already have the song already going. And then, again, Mark Lerner. I owe all to Mark. He envisions these great horn parts. And then, again, on this album, it was Jackie and Kevin, and I can't think of who the other horn players are, but they came in again and did Mark's horn parts over this. But they seem to fit, again, perfectly.
And a different vocal persona, not a trace of the Tom Waits to be heard here.
I haven't thought about my vocal personas too much, but now that you bring it up, I think I have my usual voice that you're hearing now, that I'm probably using on that song, normal voice. And then I do like Tom Waits so much and that style that I think I sometimes would gravitate into that zone and get all growly and low.
Yeah, I didn't feel bad about that because Tongue Cut Sparrow, the song right before this, is completely like the full-on Tom Waits voice. Yes. Which I start to cough if I try to do that too long for my voice.
Hopefully those vocals are just all a nod towards Tom Waits, who I like so much, but not feeling like a direct mimicking.
I also wanted to bring this song in because as a contrast, obviously we have not had too much wackiness so far, but this one is at least flirting with sincerity. I mean, it's a story though. You're saying there are elements from your personal life, but this is not a message to somebody in particular. This is a scene, a literary exercise of some sort.
Yeah, a vignette of two friends getting together on some level here and dealing with some problem. And I know in the lyric, a movable luck can tip your way sometimes. And I think that's a message that he's telling to his friend, not to give up all hope that a movable luck you think it's immovable, but it can tip your way.
Okay, I thought there was something wistful here. I was hearing when I got your call as when I got the call, as in like this is about a dead person or something. But there's definitely some sort of nostalgia about, when things were normal, I guess, or potential rejection if you stick around. I don't know. Am I reading too much into that?
There's a wistfulness that you're trying to recapture something that you had. They're old friends trying to get back something that they once had. So, I mean, there's some humorous things going on with it. I don't know, somehow when you say, well, eat some chicken and hang out, for some reason, eating some chicken feels like a funny thing.
Can you bust a move like I bust a move? Throwing that in, how are you doing, is a choice.
Right.
And I like how, let me actually just play going into the second verse here.
'Cause when you're in the dance, you gotta dance. And when you stop for a breath, you hope the room won't be spinning. A movable luck.
The fact that we're introducing that beautiful violin riff there, and the bass is just so carefully a little bit funky in places. It's very straightforward. It's pushing the song forward, boom, dun, dun, but then throwing in these little hiccups. It sounds like you are very, very light on how you direct the band, that this is all your many years of playing together.
pretty much very light, and they bring in what they hear. When I bring in the basic bones of the song, they bring on all their parts pretty much. There'll be occasions when we say, okay, Ken, why don't you try to play this drum part, etc. But, usually it's just everyone bringing in what they hear and us hashing it out. So did I say I hear something a little funky here? Probably not.
Can you bust a move like I bust a move? That should be where it funks up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, overall, it's not very funky at all, I'd say. I don't know what the whole overall vibe is, but I guess when the horns come in later and the chorus, maybe it gets a little more upbeat and funky.
Well, it's that dual guitar thing. I assume that arpeggiated 2-chord guitar riff that is the foundation of the song. Is that something you would bring in, or you just brought in the chordal equivalent of that?
Right. I was just bringing in the chords and both guitar. Well, Dave Moody plays cello sometimes, and he plays rhythm guitar, and Al Houghton's playing the lead guitar. They really worked out the two guitar parts that are sort of maybe interweaving there. And I'm really coming in I'm a real just basher on the guitar, strumming the chords. I'm not fancy at all. I'm just lucky to have these guys who have some musical savvy where I feel like I'll get the tune and the words, but pretty doltish when it comes to these sophisticated parts that these guys come up with. I thank them.
If you stick around, we can work things out, get some chicken and talk things over. We'll get some tickets.
So this just seems unusual. I mean, when you're talking about going and eating chicken, there's something sort of New Orleans that's suggested there, but this is almost like marching band. The fact that this is so trombone heavy on the on-beats.
There's some segment there that I did hear some marching band in. It was in New Orleans, and there was some football game, and they were playing some bam, 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 like that. And I thought, yeah, I've got this in the back of my head. And as I'm writing this song, which just that part was seeping in and influencing me as I'm writing a song that was already on the table.
I also noticed in there that he's not playing hi-hat, your drummer. He's playing rim shot for the, some percussive thing, but that is not cymbal, which just gives it a complete, again, takes it to, you don't do that in rock. I mean, to make the thing, the eighth note, a steady rim shot or something like that, whatever that is.
Oh, how I wish the drummer were here to explain the mysteries of how he plays the drums.
All right. I'm just pointing out.
But that's good to hear because I often think the drums get ignored in a way. They're just straight ahead. And I think there are some signature parts to the drums in a lot of these songs. I mean, from Mounds of Flesh earlier, that drum part, it's very simple, but that really became a real signature part of the song. And that was a different drummer came up with that. And then in the Ocean too, that drum part seems just very distinctive. I feel like people remember the guitar riff or whatever, but not always. There's a drum riff almost in some of these songs.
Yes. Well, I always paid a lot of attention to the rhythm section. And as a bass player who likes to play the drums and is not that good at drums, but certainly that's what sells a lot of the songs for me, that you've got a very high profile bass line really driving the thing, and that the drums are certainly not just like, I've heard the song once and I'll play through it. Like you could do that in a lot of bands, but to keep every song very distinct in that way.
They really know that musical aspect that I just sit back and go like, oh, I like that, but I don't understand totally what they're doing.
So has your level of interest in arrangement and that kind of thing has changed over the years? I'm just thinking of XTC where, we have a guy in the band that can do the strings. Well, 10 years later, I want to arrange the strings now. I've figured that out. I want to inject more of my melody into, it seems like, to have this many years of hands off and yet you haven't had a solo album. Is that just a matter of your strictly literary melody approach to song that you're kind of fine keeping in your lane, or are you putting your fingers all over the place?
I guess it might be crazy to say these are all solo albums in a way because it's all my songs. And, I've been, again, lucky to have these guys support my songs. If I had to support their songs, I don't feel like I know exactly what I do to support their songs. And Mark and Al, they've had their separate musical projects too, where they do maybe more of things they wanted to do in their voice.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Is that despair? Is that, it's okay. It doesn't matter. I wasn't quite sure what mood I was supposed to be getting from. We're describing some activity. It just doesn't matter.
I feel like here's a guy who wants to help this other guy with a problem, but he's maybe not the best person to help him. He's like, you should check me out dancing. He's into himself. And I think he thinks the main thing was maybe we're not solving everything here, but we're having a good time. So it doesn't matter, we'll get together. We'll have some chicken. We'll go to the roller derby.
Even the calling out her name, the fact that that's the thing that gets repeated, seemingly her in question is just somebody involved in the roller derby. It's not like a prime character. It's a matter of just something is breaking down and this happens to be the line.
Right. That line just seemed right at the right point in that song. What does that all mean? I'm not sure. I mean, they're getting caught up in the moment. That's the peak of a moment of getting together. This character that he's trying to help him is maybe lost. And he's like, you know what? It doesn't matter about all your problems. Here we are. We're at the roller derby. We're calling out her name. We're calling out her name. And that's what we love to do together. Here we are.
And yet, yes, as you repeat it, it sort of gets more desperate and...
Right. So there is that, yeah. As soon as you think everything's good, maybe there is some kind of desperation.
Well, enough weirdness. We need to turn to Chicken Dance, of just a regular...
You think that's going to be less weird? Okay, good.
So this was the first thing I heard of yours. It's on Spotify. It's your first album. So I kind of thought this was your first album, even though it is, your third or fourth, something like that. 1997, Two Legs Bad. And you started nearly 10 years earlier. So there had been some miles on the machine by this point. So this is the first thing I'd ever heard of you guys. And I felt the need to just listen to this compulsively for like a week. So clearly I was going into this, picking what songs I will give the rest of the album and the subsequent album another chance. But this is the one I had to get back to. It's such just a weird structure. And, I understand after watching the video and looking at the lyrics, like there is a coherent story, but it just seemed, what the hell am I even listening to? Like something that is clearly reacting to and playing off of Nirvana-esque, the heavy sounds of the time or of a few years earlier. Say a little to warn folks of what they're about to hear.
Well, first of all, the song started because I was really into this arcade in Chinatown on Mott Street. It had all the normal arcade games, Pac-Man, whatever, back in the day. But then it had two unusual arcade attractions. One was a chicken that played tic-tac-toe, and you'd put in your 50 cents and out would come.
Those are world over, yes.
Those are world over, but kids today, they're missing out. They don't know about these, they just know the electronic game.
No animal abuse in arcades anymore.
No home entertainment centers or arcade games feature a live chicken anymore. So, this was something that I felt had to be captured. So, yeah, the tic-tac-toe chicken would come out. The bird always won, as I remembered it, too. You had the bird, you'd play it, then a sign would light up, it goes, bird wins, bird wins. So that was good. I could have written a song about that. But then the other attraction with the live chicken was the dancing chicken. And you, again, put 50 cents in. The chicken struts out on this plate that was spinning. And the rumor was that maybe there was a slight electronic impulse that went through the plate and sent a little jolt into the chicken so it would act like it was dancing a bit more. So from that, I thought, what if about the businessman who goes in there and sees this chicken and gets a bit obsessed? And this whole song is about being obsessed with that chicken, and maybe that character seeing himself as the chicken trapped in the box, not seeing the light of day, not seeing the sunshine, going more and more down the drain mentally with this obsession, dragging business associates. Come see this chicken. You have to see this chicken. Why? But I don't know.
That spins until the seed comes tumbling in your bowl. I guess this is showbiz. I'm old and tired, but I still know how to move my stuff. The plate is wired. Oh, how I miss the sky above and a ray of. I want a ray of. I need a ray of sunshine. Look at me now, I'm a businessman, counting the hairs on the back of my hand. But when I get scared, I hope you'll understand. I'm gonna need you to hold my hand, especially when we go to Chinatown. And in the video arcade we walk around. There's a chicken there I don't understand. Give him a quarter and he'll start to dance. Chicken dance, chicken dance.
someone write down every thought I have. Tell a dirty joke and then laugh. But in Chinatown I feel compelled to put myself through a little hell. I drag business associates to the video arcade and say, this is the one who makes me afraid. Chicken dance, chicken dance. Will someone explain it? I don't understand. Take my hand, take my hand. I beg you please, it's the circumstance. Sometimes when I see the tiny little chicken dance, I feel sadder. It's a bit too richy, sadder. Chicky ookie, chicky ookie, ooh. But when I step up to the glass and see that shaky chicken ass, I feel. Look at me now, I'm able to unspeak because of the motions beneath that beat. I look at my inbox and I start to well. I need distraction, I need some mail. Where's my mail? Where's my mail? Did some idiot throw it in the garbage pail? Where's my mail? Where's my mail? You didn't give it to someone with feathers and a tail. Take my hand, take my hand. I beg you please, it's the circumstance. Chicken dance, chicken dance. I don't understand.
Ooh la la, ooh la la, ooh la la la. Ooh la la, ooh la la, ooh la la la.
One of the things I loved about this is just the structure is so weird that you've got this really kind of painfully long introduction of lo-fi. We're going to make this sound bad. You are not going to this is the opening to our record and we're going to have a full 36 seconds of this. Like this. Like I can totally see, like you have in Ocean where you do that for a little bit. And then it opens up, but this kind of it's the only part from the point of view of the chicken. Not that I would have necessarily known that without looking at the lyrics here. And then having that very comic opening Sunshine that introduces the grunge part. You have like a disco section that comes back, but like this theme never comes back. You never get like you singing Not With the Effect, something like this later in the song.
And I don't think that the voice of the chicken ever comes back. It was just that as a story, it's starting with what's the chicken thinking about. And so, yeah, maybe that did go on for quite a while. But the song's epic in a way that it has, I don't know how many parts. I haven't counted how many parts, but there's often parts that maybe there are a few parts that don't come back either, and that just sort of play off what came before. So it goes on, the tale. I do feel like it's the spiraling out of his mind of this business dude who's just so obsessed by the chicken and is becoming the chicken.
Quite a few structural things to talk about, at the very least, because you've got chicken dance being the big chorus thing, and you feel like for the third chorus, we'll just do Where's My Mail instead of, I see how it fits in the plot, but in terms of like, here's the hook that I've just sold you on. Well, I'm going to sing something that sounds like it's a crazy person ranting about their mail instead of repeating the chicken. I mean, it comes back to chicken dance 2 lines later. It's not a radical change, but right there that you've written a whole story rather than we're stopping the story to do the chorus, which is, I think, a more normal approach. Like, let's tell a story in the verses and then give you the thing to snap along, and then we'll tell a little more of the story. And maybe we'll switch it around. I just happened to, in a different podcast, be doing as part of it, don't ask why, an analysis of the Pina Colada song, and the fact that like, oh, we turn it around, that yes, I like, every chorus has a little different spin on it. Yeah. What is your take on sort of combining, you've got a lot of very catchy songs, but yet you want to keep the story going?
And that might be an impulse to break things up because maybe I get bored and hearing the same chorus. Maybe that's just me, and most people don't get bored of hearing it. So there's that impulse pulling it along. But also, again, this character that feels trapped and he's feeling fear and he's cracking up. It's as if he's singing the chorus and then he's diverting from the chorus. He's so mad at the end, I feel crazy mad, that he's singing, "Where's my mail?" I mean, his mail might be right in front of him too, but he's digging through the garbage pail. He's looking for a certain piece of mail. This guy's going through a breakdown. I've had my own breakdowns too, so I think maybe I know.
And so is the ooh la la just the expression of going crazy a little bit, or was that a later addition in arrangement, as you were actually getting into it with the band?
That came from me right away with the song. Yeah, again, I just think all these voices entering this guy's head. Now there's what is this little French voice coming in? Why is that there? Ooh la la, ooh la la. To me, it was French. Why did it enter his head? I don't know. Part of the madness, I say. And you saw the video too.
I did see the video. Yes, that definitely clarified the story.
The video was such a fun part of this project in particular because the song lent itself so well to a video. And we work with this guy, John Lee, who's a friend of mine he's gone on. I always feel like we gave him a start with this video, but he went on to do Wonder shows. And I don't know if you ever saw that show, and a bunch of Adult Swim shows. And he directed a film, Pee-wee's Big Holiday, I think it was called. It's like the last Pee-wee, most recent Pee-wee film. But he went on to do that. But I thought he did a great job directing it, and it was fun to work with him. And we were filming this. When was this song from? Late 80s or whatever? 90s?
Well, 97 is when but was this written quite a bit before that, or this was written for this project?
No, it was written for this. I just forget when it was. But at the time, I remember he filmed it all it was still 16 millimeter. We weren't doing any digital video. I don't even know if digital video around then. Anyway, it didn't seem like it was. So we were doing all still on film. And we got a chicken from a live poultry store in Brooklyn. And I walked in and there were two older women on little stools with their feet. They were wearing boots, but their feet were in the kiddie pool. And they were breaking the necks of these chickens. And blood was going into the kiddie pool. And they're saying, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "I just need a live chicken. I just need it for the day." And the live chicken cost about $6. And then we took the chicken out. We filmed all over New York with that chicken. I felt like the chicken felt like, boy, this is great. I'm a star now. I'm out in the world. I'm living the life. But then at the end of the day, we were like, well, what do we do with the live chicken? We had to bring it back to the slaughterhouse. I always felt bad for that chicken looking up and going like, oh, well, I just had this wonderful day. I had a dream day being a movie star. And now you bring me back to this? Oh, no.
So the actual chicken in the video arcade did not exist anymore for you just to go film it.
It was right at a point where that had disappeared. The sign, I think there's a really brief segment where the sign is still up on the Mott Street arcade. We didn't show that barely enough. And then a friend painted her interpretation of what the chicken arcade game might look like. We had sort of a frame, and I'm in there with the chicken mask on at one point. So the arcade itself had disappeared by that point. So we built our own dreamlike version of what that box looked like. That whole video was really fun to do.
Just looking back at the music a little bit. So again, I was reading this as sort of a comment on grunge. Again, is there like an acoustic guitar and you version of this somewhere where you weren't quite sure what the dynamics were going to be, or was this kind of mapped out from the start that we're going to have this big grungy bassist Weezer-esque sort of thing?
Maybe that's the influence of the time, late 90s, that came in. But I just started it as a song I could play on guitar. And that was when I could actually play fairly well on my own on guitar. So that one holds up, I think, as a song where you don't need any sort of other effects or anything like that.
But yet again, like we were talking about with the rhythm section, it's so prominent. Like the bass is such a major part of the song, and these, these licks on guitar that are holding things together.
And there is a bit of a funky part there, where, like you're saying, chicken down, down, chicken down. So, and that's a bit chickeny guitar work to me, some kind of scratchy, nervous, itchy guitar stuff, but it's also a bit funky.
Well, and that's what's great, that, you've got this underlying grunge thing, but everything else about the arrangement, the fact that you're then throwing in strings, like Weezer's not going to do that. Nirvana's not going to do that. And yeah, any sort of comments on, again, maybe this is a production question, but on that you've got strings in the band, but yet you like to bring horns in a lot. I don't think I wasn't purposely picking 3 horn songs, but that's what came out here. Horns tend to just blast strings off the stage. What is the thought on how to balance those and where the strings are doing things and where the horns are coming in?
I have a vague memory of how it goes. I think we often have a good way of just balancing the two. I don't know what it takes to balance the two, but I know what you're saying, that the horns could really just blast the strings out of there. I think they are weaving in and out and giving each their moment. So there's a way to balance it. And that's maybe just a way we've always thought. Again, I'll say Mark Lerner again as a guy who really has an ear for this and is balancing those elements and coming up, doing the composition when it comes to those parts.
I mean, it's a great tool in the box for instant changes in dynamics that you can just, let's add a little string thing here or just the violin and then add the cello under it and increase from there, and then do the same with horns, that you've got a few different layers there. I was listening at the It Doesn't Matter part at the end of the last song that we were just talking about. You know, it sounds like a big block of horns, and I was listening closely. Oh, okay, actually the strings are under there. That's what the combined sound actually sounds like. And so maybe that's the ticket, is that, you know, like rhythm guitar, you're not always paying attention to it. It's just that the strings are usually the luscious thing that is introduced that you pay attention to. But then if you're adding horns on top of that, well, then the mind goes to the horn. That's fine. That's just the way the full orchestra is going to go. And you can always take the horns away and leave the strings and have that extra dynamic ability.
I think that the fear would be is that you just wash over the whole song too much with all of that. You feel like, God, it's just so much. Why are they doing so much orchestration? But I hope that we are doing it in such a tasteful way that it's just all supporting the song and complementing it, and nothing's just too overwhelming when it comes to that orchestration. I don't think we overdo it.
Yeah, looking at live clips, it seems like the strings are very disciplined in terms of, we're just staying out of even this whole song, or, you know, this whole portion of this song. It's fine. It doesn't have to be a violin band because we have a violin and that's our lead player and does all the, you've got multiple lead players. It does not leave the guitar soloist enough room if the violin is doing that all the time.
Right. I feel like they step in, they have their tasty, juicy parts, and then they step back a bit.
I recall in college, I don't know, I was always very attracted to very arranged music, and I would try to, when auditioning new like lead guitarists in my college band, like, okay, have you ever been in an orchestra? Pretend you're an oboe. Sometimes the oboe plays, sometimes the oboe doesn't play. It's just by default, especially if you only have a 4 or 5 piece band, everybody's playing all the time. And it just seems, you know, especially when you get a band of your size, you got to have more maturity and discipline and communication than that.
That's the fear with some players, too. That's a tendency. When you have a real hotshot guitar player, maybe. I always played with a saxophone player at one point who maybe had that tendency. There's a certain tendency, maybe with a few musicians who want to spray all over everything and never stop and, you know, just really soak down the song with their solos and never stop the solo. The solo never stops sometimes with a few people. So it's good to know when to pull back, you know, have the parts that support it. Like you said, you want the oboe to play this part, clarinet to play that part in an orchestra. Same here with these songs.
Well, it's also, I guess, when you're facing an audience who is not familiar with your material, if you don't do that at this point, but the fact that you have humor in the lyrics, like that's a good way to sell. Even if it's going to take you 3 listens to this song before you understand musically what's going on, I can be painting doing a character voice or, you know, telling some story that you at least get a gist of, and that can sell it. Also, having a really good guitarist responding to me, people can say ooh and ah to all the pretty sounds that are coming out of the horns and strings mixing or the cool guitar licks, because that stuff at least you can get on first listen. Like, I think for most pop music, you got to listen to something through one of your albums 3 times in order to make heads or tails of it. Like listening to Satsuma, that's about how long it took before, like, okay, there's lots of different sounds going on here, but I'm not really sure what, other than this is an eclectic fun time. But yeah,
having the strong band makes it accessible and brings you in. And then you're somebody, and hopefully others will sit back and say, like, what is he actually talking about here? I mean, I'm thinking on the new Satsuma record here, we have that Bluebird song. And when you first hear it, to me, it's very accessible. This sounds a bit like John Fogerty, Creedence Clearwater, maybe basis overall on that song. And so you go along and say, this is a basic rock song, but what's it about? You know, you'd have to dig in and even read what we have here, that it's based on this Kurt Vonnegut book of essays.
Well, that sounds like a great way to segue to introducing the last song here, Soul Deliverer, also from the new album, which, you know, it's like a Rolling Stones quality. punching you and having these great bluesy licks. And can you say a little about what this song means or where this came from before folks hear it?
Soul Deliverer here is based on Taya Obrecht. She's a young author who wrote this book, The Tiger's Wife. I think that might have been her first novel, but it's a really brilliant fantasy novel. And there's a character in this book called the Deathless Man, and he's always smiling all the time, and he's doomed to roam the earth for eternity, and he's collecting souls. And he can tell you how long you have to live by looking at the grounds inside your coffee cup. Here, have a cup of coffee, drink, look in, and you go, oh, you have 5 years left, sorry. So there's his voice going on. There's a bit of I think the person's voice of who's dealing with the Deathless Man going on too. And sometimes might not always be clear whose voice is coming in at what point. But I think I'm dealing with two voices here in the song of the Deathless Man, who's the soul deliverer, who's taking everyone's soul and shipping them off. I pictured him, it's not in the book this way, but I pictured the guy delivering souls to the next level, the next dimension, to heaven, wherever, as sort of a UPS guy in his brown shorts working at almost like a packaging kind of place, packing up the souls and getting them out. And in the book, she says too, that it takes the process to deliver a soul takes about 40 days that limbo. There's a limbo zone where you have to go through. So it's about 40 days before you totally leave this planet and move to the next sphere, dimension, area, whatever it might be.
Before I let you go, let me just ask you a couple more things. So you seem to have moved to an EP. You're calling it the new album, but it's 6 songs. I see We Already Have Birds That Sing was 7 songs. That's actually plenty especially in a digital format to sort of feast on. But I still have projects that I've only got 8 of the songs done. I don't think I could release it like that. I need to finish the last 4 that I meant to do add on. Can you say sort of how this is coming from your second album being 18 or 20?
Yeah, that was the most ambitious. The reason in particular that this album is 6 is I think we would have had more songs. We started it right before the lockdown. I have a few more songs in the hopper that we were working on, but we were all together working on the basic tracks. And I think we really would have made this a longer album if we were together and had the time. But then when the pandemic struck and the outbreak struck, we just said, you know what? We have 6 songs. They actually add up to about almost 30 minutes, I think. And we said, well, let's just go with the EP format. So it was really the pandemic that drove the 6-song EP format in this case.
So does that mean assuming this goes away at some point, that you're going to be ready to go with the next batch?
I have to say, lockdown's been good for me. I've just been sitting down in the basement where I am right now, and I've been writing a lot on piano more for whatever reason. And I feel like I'm stacking up the songs and ready to get back with the band. We just haven't been back together at all. I mean, the most back we've been, I think, is when we did that video for one of the songs, the Bluebird song. We all did a Zoom call and we all worked that into the video. But it'll be great to get back and work on the next one. And I would imagine it'll be longer because hopefully the pandemic will have lifted. We can get together for a long time and do more songs. Luckily with this one, we had the 6 songs. We had all the basic tracks done for those 6 songs. We even had the horns done. This was back before March. And then it hit, and then we still had overdubs to do, but we could do the overdubs long distance. I know Dave did some cello part from upstate, and Mark is upstate too, and they recorded up there. And I don't know how you do all the technical stuff, but they were able to make the digital files and ship it to Al, who blended it all in nicely. So there were some overdubs during the lockdown period.
So Al is a professional audio guy, but everybody else has day jobs. Is that fair?
Yeah, that is his day job. He runs Dubway Studios, which is a great studio. Go there, everybody. It's at the lower end of Manhattan, right by the Bull, in Wall Street, where that statue of the Bull is. And he's been running Dubway for decades and decades. And he first had the studio up by the Port Authority in the music building and started with 8 tracks, and now he's got the full blown zillion track studio. And then the rest of everyone else does have day jobs, right? And his is a day job too. Just happens to be in music more so than anyone else in the band.
And has it been an entirely consistent lineup since Two Legs Bad, since the 90s at least?
Since the 90s, yeah. It's been everyone there on Two Legs Bad is here today. Probably It Likes Me was a different lineup. So when was that? Early 90s. So maybe right after that, the lineup as it is today solidified. So it's been decades with the same 6 people.
I guess everybody's then at an age. When you're doing this late 80s one, so you were all at NYU or something? Was it during college, shortly after?
Yeah, shortly after college, late 80s, brought together the first iteration of the band.
And then people that age, besides whatever ego issues they have, don't necessarily know where they're going to stay. I'm just wondering, what is the secret to this stability and longevity, given that you are the sole songwriter? That has been, there have always been, especially drummers, that often they see their drumming as almost an athletic activity or something. Like, I could do it here, I could do it there. Like,
You're saying they're so unreliable.
I've gone through a lot of drummers. Let me put it that way. Unless they're all also songwriters. That if you have we are songwriters working together, and that is the secret of our connection. Otherwise, it just has to rely on friendship and mutual respect. And
as corny as it sounds, I think that is the bond for us, is that we're just such great friends, and it's just worked out that way. Yeah, I can't totally explain it, but I always had great shows too, great fan base that doesn't seem to, it grows and ebbs and it gets bigger and smaller, but they're there. We keep having great shows in New York at Rockwood Music Hall and at Barbès, and I think that's always just kept us going, that there's just been a real good minor but strong fan base that's been there for us.
So not a lot of touring. You're just kind of doing when I reach a certain age, I switch to a sort of what I call a school play model of gigs, of like, we're going to work up a thing and then we're going to play once every 4 months or whatever, and it's going to be a really good show, as opposed to like, we just got to get there out there every week somewhere. And that seems to be the thing that makes you lose band members, because they get burned out from that.
Right. We've really just been doing the shows in New York City for, the past decade or so. But occasionally, we'll spring out. There'll be some show, Philadelphia, wherever. For us, that's a big journey. We did more touring earlier on and played in Canada and, out to Chicago, wherever. We played around. We did a great show in Berlin. One brief sprint to Berlin we did.
So was that around the Two Legs Bad period? Because I saw that Chicken Dance is like your number one song on Spotify. I didn't know if that was like the breakout album, and then everything else has been sort of the mature work that we don't try to push so hard.
Yeah, I think there was a big push with that record, and we played it a lot more in the United States around and into Canada. The Berlin thing was earlier, back in the late 80s, where it was just a one-off. There was a Berlin Independence Days. We played in between Mudhoney and Buzzcocks. Believe it or not, it was called Buzzcocks FOC at the time or something. Flag of Convenience, Buzzcocks. It was one of the members from Buzzcocks. We still say it was Buzzcocks. It was a bit odd, though, because Mudhoney and Buzzcocks, those were the sounds of the bands playing. And then us in the middle of those two was maybe not a marriage made in heaven. That we're a bit jarring from them. But it all worked. It was always fine.
Alternative. Whatever the hell that means.
It was all alternative, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this. It was great. I had some leisure time. I had a good 3 months to sink into your catalog and listen to things repeatedly, because I was like, this is a band that I actually like all these songs. So,
well, that's great to hear. That's great. And I just delving into some of your songs now too. And I see, you definitely have your own weirdness and humor. Maybe you're a bit more, I haven't listened to everything yet, obviously, but on a folky side. And when you said the Charlie Brown maybe influence with you a bit, and I feel an affinity with Charlie Brown too. I have the round head, and just that, that sense, there's a humor, and there's also that sort of despair with Charlie Brown, and things go wrong. And I feel like those elements, that all makes sense to me with a lot of my songs.
I've got to deliver some souls today, pack them in jars and cart them away. 'Cause in the backwoods the minds may spray a body or two that has gone astray. Sorrows leave, get caught in branches where crows eat them like worms enchanted. But it's quite a steady job. From the grounds inside my cup, I think next time I'll skip the coffee and get water for my lunch. Water did wonders for you. You'd never know that you were 95. Believe me, I've tried to kill myself 1,000 times. It can be so hard to stay alive. I know, my days are numbered. From the grounds inside my cup, I think next time I'll skip heart behind. Instructions you must follow to usher souls along. For if you should leave someone in a suitcase in a field, say all the children will get scared, everything will go wrong. Cold hands, let go and say goodbye. Cold hands, gather belongings before you cry. And listen, we don't offer rough service. It takes many days, at least 40. So you better notify your employer when it comes time for soul exporting. I know, my days are numbered from the grounds inside my cup. I think next time I'll skip the coffee and get water for my lunch. Listen, I'll meet you at the crossroads, but for now, let me enjoy my John Dory and Rakia. And I'm gonna keep that Jungle Book with me for now. Besides, you'll get it on the final day I see ya. I know, my days are numbered from the grounds inside my cup. I think next time I'll skip the coffee and get water for my soul.
Thanks so much to Don. Another one I really enjoyed, both talking to him and prepping. I'm a longtime fan, as my listeners probably know, of bands like Camper Van Beethoven and They Might Be Giants, and Life in a Blender is a great find in that vein. You can learn more about them at lifeinablender.net. Maybe go check out their Bandcamp page. They've got some funny videos I will link to from the blog post accompanying this at nakedlyexaminedmusic.com. We are, of course, a part of the Partially Examined Life podcast network. You may well be listening this on the PEL feed, but I'm hoping you'll subscribe directly at nakedlyexaminedmusic.com or look up Nakedly Examined Music on your desired podcast app. And while you are there on our Apple podcast page or wherever, I would love if you would leave a rating or review. In fact, there is a new widget on nakedlyexaminedmusic.com in the upper right that makes it super easy to rate and review the show. The 2 episodes that I now have in the hopper are with Larry Keel, who you'll hear next, and Robert Forster of the Go-Betweens. Super excited about that one. I'm always open to your suggestions, or volunteer yourself. The guest I have after Robert is someone who reached out to me directly saying, you should cover my music, and I loved it, and will be doing so. If you want to support the show and never have to hear me read commercials again, please do so at patreon.com/nakedlyexaminedmusic. And with your Patreon subscription, you will get a URL to a new version of the feed with all the ad-free episodes, some bonus content. And as I said, I have now started posting my notes. It's just a Google Doc, but the actual thing that I use to prep for this, where I map out the songs, paste in the lyrics, a fun accompaniment for you while listening to the show. So, per usual, keep on musicking. Until next time, this is Mark Linsenmeyer signing off.